When you begin your journey in the Land of Shadow, you'll probably run into this enemy before too long. The Furnace Golems are colossal war machines of pure chaos, and when you get even remotely close to one, they'll begin throwing some pretty nasty volleys of flame at you. And if you manage to get close enough to attack one, you'll quickly realize that your attacks seem to do absolutely nothing to stop its onslaught. Oh, and also there's fire everywhere. These things are very intimidating early on, and it might feel like it's better to hold off a while before you take them on, but if you learn how to deal with them early, you'll have a much more relaxing time exploring and also walk away with some nice loot. And with that, let's dive right into how to beat them. When dealing with the Furnace Golem, the first thing you'll want to do is look at its feet to determine if it's armored or not. If there's ropes around its ankles, it doesn't have armor, and we'll use a more conventional method to take it down. To start, we need to get close enough to damage it. Every Furnace Golem in the game has a slightly different preference for attacks at a distance, sometimes choosing to run right up to you, other times kicking fireballs, spewing them from above, or turning its basket into a literal tornado and shooting a funnel of fire at you. Strafing on Torrent is a great way to avoid most of its attacks at a distance, and if you have any available cover, take advantage of it while you make your approach. When you get there, choose either of the legs and begin attacking. In melee range, Furnace Golems can perform a variety of attacks, but their most commonly used ability is their Flame Stomp. To avoid this, all you have to do is roll or jump as the flaming foot meets the ground. Another common ability they use is lighting both feet on fire together and doing a jumping slam attack, which causes an explosion in melee range and spreads fire out at a distance. You can evade this by getting far enough away from the explosion while the golem is charging up and jumping the fire as it spreads. They can kick fireballs in melee range as well, which can be rolled away from on either side. They may also decide to continue their barrage of fireballs on occasion, which I recommend avoiding by mounting on Torrent and running in a circle around the golem. There's also a grab attack, which is easily avoided by staying behind the golem as much as possible since it takes them a while to actually turn around and face you. If you do happen to be in front of it when the grab happens, it can be rolled after its hand reaches the ground. And finally, they have a smash attack that comes from its arms on either side, which can be rolled away from just before it makes contact. So now that we know how to avoid taking damage from it, how do we kill it? To actually defeat the unarmored golems, you'll need to build up enough stagger to break the posture of its legs repeatedly until it eventually loses its balance and falls over. You can technically just focus one leg, but in my experience, alternating legs between each posture break works a bit faster. Once the golem collapses, you can run up to its head and riposte. The golem will then get back up and resume the same attacks it was using before. To finish it off, simply rinse and repeat one more time. For casters, you may be able to attack its faceplate directly and avoid breaking its posture altogether, but keep in mind you'll always be in front of it and more prone to being hit. And that's it for defeating these golems. But what about the armored ones? Despite being fire-type enemies, Furnace Golems are actually very weak to fire, but only if that fire happens to land inside the basket mounted on their backs. To take down an armored Furnace Golem, we'll need to be able to craft hefty fire pots or hefty furnace pots, which require the Greater Potentate's Cookbooks 1 and 2, shown here on the map in Gravesite Plain. Once you have those, you'll need to get a decent supply of hefty cracked pots, which are obtained in a variety of locations across the Land of Shadow. But if you want a quick supply of them, head over to Bellarat Jail for 3 and over to Bonnie Village for 2 more. Once you've got some pots made, you'll want to look for a spirit spring somewhere in the vicinity of the golem. That is the place where we will then attempt to lure the golem and proceed to play basket jar while avoiding bombardments of fire and the occasional swipe attack. If you're using hefty fire pots, you'll need to score 5 baskets to defeat the golem. And if you've managed to scrounge up the mats for the hefty furnace pots, you'll need just 3. And that's it. These techniques should help you defeat every single furnace golem you encounter in Shadow of the Erdtree. But before we go, here's a few helpful tips along with a full demonstration of the strats we just covered. If you need to farm ingredients for your hefty fire and furnace pots, check out these locations. Red flesh mushrooms can be found along any of the roads in the Land of Shadow, but if you're looking for a solid early game farming spot, check out the 3-path cross Site of Grace. Within a few paces along any of the 3 roads, you'll find several mushrooms and can keep resetting them by resting or fast traveling to the Grace. There's 8 mushrooms in the area, so you should be able to stock up on them fairly quickly. For the Pyreflies, go to the Scorched Ruin Site of Grace and search the northeast corner of the ruins for 2 of them. To farm these effectively, you have to fast travel back to the Site of Grace as resting does not reset them. Just be careful of the enemies in the area as they may prevent you from being able to fast travel. You can also try using the Memory of Grace if you're not too worried about losing your runes. For furnace pots, you'll need Embers of Mesmer, which has a single node easily farmable in the early game at this tent near the castle front site of Grace. And for the furnace visages, well, you'll just have to get those from the golems themselves. There are actually a few locations where you can get furnace visages without killing the golems if you prefer that. If you want them, there's one in the basement in the Fort of Reprimand, 3 for giving Hornsent a scorpion stew in Scadu Altus, and if you manage to find the secret area in the Shadow Keep that takes you to the Furnace Golem Graveyard, you'll find quite a few of them there. And for my final tip, if you're really struggling with making those baskets, head up to your Spirit Spring, go to the ledge, and quit out. When you reload, the Furnace Golem's position will be conveniently nice and close, giving you a clean opportunity to throw your pots and secure the dub. And finally, here's a demonstration of the strategies we just covered. Thanks so much for watching. For more help on your journey through the Land of Shadow, head on over to our growing wiki on IGN.com. And of course, for everything else Elden Ring, stick with IGN.